Hi guys, welcome to another video. In this video we are going to be taking the rear brake calipers off and we are going to be repainting them. So I'm going to take you along with me and I'm going to show you each step of the process and hopefully you'll be able to do the same. Okay, so first thing we need to do is remove this clip here which holds the brake pads in along with these pins. A pin here and a pin here. So I'll just grab a Phillips head screwdriver and I want to just turn the pin until I can pull that clip out. And same with the bottom. Actually I can just pull that out now. Might be a little stuck. Oh, there we go. So pull that retainer clip out and next we can just push these pins out, which you might need to get a little hammer behind there and tap it out. Get a flat blade screwdriver in there if you have to. Now I can just grab some pliers and should be able to pull these pins out relatively easily enough. And you got this clip, you got this retaining clip here as well, like another retaining clip. That just holds, it's like a spring, holds the pads tightly in. So take that one out. And then this, this clip can just be removed, and take note of the orientation. In this case, it actually doesn't matter. It's the same. Now we can slide the pads out. And these have still quite a lot of meat on them, so we'll be leaving them. We won't be replacing them. And remove these brake pad clips. They just retain the brake pad in the caliper and hold it tightly in place and stops the pad from moving around. Now at this stage you can actually push the piston back. I've got some of these adjustables pliers which do the job really nicely. Yeah, push the piston back into the caliper and do the same on the other side. Next we need to clamp off the brake line so that when we do undo the brake line, brake fluid doesn't go everywhere. So I brought home with me from work some of these. You can improvise with maybe something that you've got at home, maybe some locking pliers. Yeah, I've just got some of these. They'll do the job nicely. That'll stop most of the brake fluid coming out. Now what I'll do next, I'm going to take apart this block here. It's a 12mm bolt. Next we want to undo the actual hard brake line, and then we will be able to move the brake line completely away from the caliper. It's just a 10mm spanner. Be careful. So just so brake fluid doesn't leak on the floor, I'm just going to put this drainer underneath, because when we do crack the line now, like I've cracked it, when we undo it, brake fluid will come out, like a little bit will still come out. Alright, there you go, brake fluid. You can see it's not draining out, it's not dribbling out. That's a really good sign that our clamp's working. Just put that to the side. You can zip tie it somewhere if you want. So next we just have these two bolts that hold the caliper to the hub, to the knuckle. So we've just got one there and one below that. They're just about a 17mm. So once we remove those two, the caliper will just freely come off. Now these are usually done up quite tight, so it is a little harder just with a spanner. So you probably have to put a lot of weight in, a lot of your body weight into it. And And then if you have a ratchet spanner like I do, just makes things a little bit quicker. Do the same with the bottom bolt for the caliper. And once again, ratchet spanner to the rescue. Once you get them loose enough, you can just undo them with your fingers. So these brake calipers are actually R33 rear brake calipers. They are actually a popular upgrade. So this setup actually has, internally there, it has a drum type handbrake shoe setup. So it's got a drum and it's got brake shoes. Alright, there you go. That was easy enough, wasn't it? So, real simple. Just a couple of bolts, 2 caliper bolts there, and then you had your 2 pins there and some clips and retainers. So yeah, once you've got the calipers off, we can now proceed to prepping the calipers for paint. Moving on to sandblasting next. So with the caliper removed now, proceed with removing the caliper on the other side, and then we are all good to go to prep for paint. Now that we've refinished the calipers and they look brand spanking new, if not better than new, we are ready for fitment. So I've got these nice braided lines from GK Tech that I had laying around that I hadn't fitted yet, so we'll fit those as well. This will make a nice addition to the braided lines that are already fitted up front. So with the braided lines, we have one end that has a connection fitting that can freely turn, that is threaded on one side, so it makes it doing up this side really easy. But this side here, it's actually a fixed fitting, so it can't be turned. So what you have to do is actually fit the line first to the caliper, and then fit the caliper with the brake line to the hard line point on the car. Make sure it's clean inside before you go fitting the line, which it is. And then just tightening it up with the 14mm spanner. Now we're good to go. We're good to fit the caliper to the knuckle. It will be inevitable that we are going to lose some brake fluid when we disconnect this line from this point here and remove this clip. So I've got the drainer down there to catch any brake fluid that will drip. Now it's a matter of removing the old line. So we need to first of all crack the hard line, which we'll do. Now you want to get some pliers and just pull this retainer clip out. Remove that clip. Now we can come in with the brand new braided line. I'll undo that by hand. Now that it's loose, and this brake line should just pull out nice and easily. Now here's your problem, it starts to leak brake fluid, so I've just put a rag down there to collect it. But you've got a little cup here as well, a little mixing cup. So the sooner you get this line on, the better. Alright, now feed the new line in. The sooner you get this line connected and done up, the less brake fluid you lose, the less brake fluid you have to top up. At this stage you can just remove the old brake line because that's just getting in the way now. We don't need that. Alright, now it's time to refit the clip. In this case I've got a brand new clip. Alright, so we can see that the brake line is still leaking, which is not good. We want to tighten that up quickly before any brake fluid gets onto that brake caliper. So we're going to tighten that up nice and tight. Being careful not to round the actual fitting itself. Then we want to clean it down with water. Now we can move on to bolting up the caliper with the 2 caliper bolts. Now it's up to you. You can use a bit of Loctite if you want to, but I've just chosen to use a bit of anti-seize on the bolt threads because most likely I'm going to have these brakes off again at some point. This is just a bit of copper grease, so it's just really good for the threads. So before we go fitting this caliper, I'm just going to give it a wipe down because I think it got covered in a little bit of brake fluid. So after we've just gone to all the effort of painting these nice calipers, yeah, we don't want the brake fluid to ruin the paint because brake fluid is just absolutely atrocious on paint. It eats right into it really easily. And once it's finished, we can just grab some water and spray the brakes down with water, and then get like some compressed air and blow all the water out if we want. Okay, let's put the nice refinished caliper back onto the knuckle. Now for the bottom bolt. Alright, no way is that coming undone. That is nice and tight. Now if you notice here that the line is considerably kinked, we don't want that. That's not good. So what we need to do is just loosen off the line again and that'll straighten out. You just saw it there, straighten out a bit. Alright, that's much better. Now don't forget to just check that back line on the back of the caliper, that connection fitting, just to make sure that it's tight. Okay, that's tight. I've just given a little nip. Okay, now it's time to refit the brake pads. We have the retaining clips that we need to reinstall. So next we have the brake pads, which I've just cleaned up with brake cleaner, and I've just taken the rough edges off these 2 sides, and we just want to put a little bit of copper grease just along here and along the other side, because when they're in the actual caliper, they will move around a little bit, and I just find with the little bit of the copper grease just on the sides, on the contact points, it reduces noise, and yeah, it's a good thing to do, I guess. Alright, so just a little bit of copper grease on the contact points of the actual pad. Just a little bit, you don't need to go crazy with this. You only want just a little bit. Same again with the other pad. And I'm just going to coat the actual guide pins just in a little bit of copper grease as well. Not much, just a little bit. Now it's time to fit the retaining clip, the spring clip here. So just slide the bottom pin in. And then you can see you just need to push the spring clip in and slide the top pin in. Give it a little wiggle if you need to. Now we have this last little clip to fit. Get your Phillips head screwdriver. Just find that hole. And same again for the top. Just find the hole. And then once you've got it both in both holes of the pin, you can just push it into place. It's good now that that's not going to come out. That's locked in place. Now lastly, you want to bleed the brake line of any air that you've now put into the system by just changing that line. This is really easy to do, it's not too hard to do. Grab a bit of PVC hose, the right size. You notice I've got a little kind of adapter piece of hose fitted to this hose, so it'll fit on the brake nipple, the brake bleed nipple really easily. So just loosen the nipple off a bit more by hand. You'll start to see brake fluid coming out. We just want to wait until there's pretty much no air bubbles coming out, and then we know that there's no air in the line. This is called a gravity bleed. If you don't have a pressure bleeder or brake sucker, you can just do it by gravity bleeding the brakes. Just make sure that you keep an eye on the actual brake fluid level, because you don't want to run out. As soon as you run out, you're now allowing air into the system, and then you'll have to start all over again. So you can see there's still a lot of bubbles coming out. We'll just wait until pretty much there's no bubbles and it's just a continuous flow of brake fluid. Okay, I'm going to tell you now that sometimes it may look like there is still air in the line. Sometimes the air can actually air can get sucked in through the brake nipple here, the brake bleeder nipple, giving you a false representation of actually what's happening. So I'm going to replay the video that I just shot then to myself of me actually pumping the pedal through manually, and if there's no air bubbles, I'm happy that the air has been bled out of this line. Now I'm just going to flush that with water because we don't want the brake fluid to eat through the paint. I really hope you enjoyed this video where we refinished these brake calipers. I think they came up really well. I've shown you how to do one side now, so you can go and do both sides. It's just the same on the other side. Little point to note, just make sure that you bleed the brakes properly. If you can, get someone to help you out. And like I was showing you earlier, just be careful when you've got the brake bleeder nipple here and you're bleeding the brakes. Sometimes the air can get sucked in and you think that there's still air in the line, and in actual fact there's no air in the line. It's all good. But yeah, just get someone to help you out if you're unsure. I really hope you enjoyed the video. Hey guys, thanks very much for watching this video and sticking around to the end. If you'd like to see more videos just like this one where we do jobs like this, and you want to know more information about the S15, then please hit subscribe if you haven't already, and give this video a big thumbs up. Thanks, I really appreciate it, and I will see you in the next one.